First of all, you don't need college to learn stuff, okay? Everything is available basically for free. You can learn anything you want for free. It is not a question of learning. There is a value that colleges have, which is like, seeing whether can somebody work hard at something, including a bunch of sort of annoying homework assignments, and still do their homework assignments and kind of soldier through and get it done. That's like the main value of college. And then also, if you probably want to hang around with a bunch of people your own age for a while instead of going right into the workforce. So I think colleges are basically for fun and to prove you can do your chores, but they're not for learning. Yeah, but to the point of the question that was just asked, I'm going to make sure Tesla recruiting does not have anything that says requires university, because that's absurd. But there is a requirement of evidence of exceptional ability. Like, you just can't, if you're trying to do something exceptional, they must have evidence of exceptional ability. I don't consider going to college evidence of exceptional ability. In fact, ideally, you dropped out and did something. I mean, obviously, we look at Gates is a pretty smart guy, he dropped out. Jobs, pretty smart, he dropped out. Larry Ellison, smart guy, he dropped out. Obviously not needed.
College or which university?
No, there's no need even to have a college degree.
Oh, well, okay.
At all, or even high school. If somebody graduated from a great university, that may be an indication that they will be capable of great things, but it's not necessarily the case. If you look at, say, people like Bill Gates or Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, these guys didn't graduate from college.
Dropouts, yeah.
But if you had a chance to hire them, of course, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
So, just looking just for evidence of exceptional ability. And if there's a track record of exceptional achievement, then it's likely that will continue into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think just generally the path to leadership should not be through, basically MBA business school situation. It's like, it should be kind of work your way up, do useful things, and and there's a bit too much of somebody goes to a high-profile MBA school and then kind of parachutes in as the leader, but they don't actually know how things work. They can be good at, say, PowerPoint presentations or something like that, and they can present well, but they don't actually know how things work because they do not, they parachute in instead of working their way out.
Yeah, they never went through an apprenticemaker, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, they're kind of just not aware of what's really needed for to make great products. So, I don't want to trash MBAs too much here, and I actually do have a dual undergrad, Wharton undergrad, and physics at UPenn. So. So I have direct exposure to business school, and I went to do undergrad business school with physics. But and I was a teaching assistant for 2 semesters, and I graded MBAs and undergrads. But I think it's just a little bit too much. People look at MBA school as I want to parachute into being the boss instead of earning it, and I don't think that's good. If you think of what is education, you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad in conventional education, because it shouldn't be this huge chore. The more you can gamify the process of learning, the better. For my kids, I do not have to encourage them to play video games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to pry them from their hands, crack.
Yes, yes.
It's drop that crack needle.
Yeah, yeah. You have that problem at your house too.
Yeah,
yes,
the
crack is addictive.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of education is very vaudevillian. You've got someone standing up there kind of lecturing at people, and they've done the same lecture 20 years in a row, and they're not very excited about it. And that lack of enthusiasm, is conveyed to the students. They're not very excited about it. They don't know why they're there. Like, why are we learning this stuff? We don't even know why. In fact, I think a lot of things people learn, probably there's no point in learning them. Because they never use them in the future.
Because who's going to launch a rocket into space? I mean, that's just like,
yeah,
exactly. That never happens.
Well, you have to say, like, people, I think, don't stand back and say, well, why are we teaching people these things? And we should tell them probably why we're teaching these things. Because a lot of kids just in school kind of puzzled as to why they're there. And I think if you can explain the why of things, then that makes a huge difference to people's motivation. Then they understand purpose.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty important, and just make it entertaining. But I think just in general, like, conventional education should be massively overhauled, and I'm sure you very much agree with that. But yeah, I mean, the analogy that I sometimes use is, like, you've seen like Batman, like the Chris Nolan movie, like the recent one, and it's pretty freaking awesome, right? And you've got incredible special effects, great script, multiple takes, amazing actors, and great sound, and it's very engaging. But if you were to instead say, okay, even if you had the same script, so at least it's the same script, and you said, okay, now that script, instead of having movies, we're going to have that script performed by the local town troupe.
Right.
Okay, and so in every small town in America, if movies didn't exist, they would have to then recreate The Dark Knight.
Right.
You know, with like home sewn costumes and, like, you know, jumping across the stage, and not getting their lines quite right, and not really looking like, you know, the people in the movie, and no special effects and everything. I mean, that would suck. It would be terrible.
That's right. That's very.
That's education.
That's education.
If somebody is doing something that is useful to the rest of society, I think that's a good thing. Like, it doesn't have to change the world. Like, you know, if you're doing something that has high value to people, and frankly, even if it's like just a little game, or, you know, some improvement in photo sharing or something, if it has a small amount of good for a large number of people, I think that's fine. Like, stuff doesn't need to be changed the world just to be good. But you know, in terms of things that I think are most likely to affect the future of humanity, I think AI is probably the single biggest item in the near term that's likely to affect humanity. So it's very important that we have the advent of AI in a good way. That is something that if you could look into the crystal ball and see the future, you would like that outcome, because it is something that could go wrong, as we've talked about many times, and so we really need to make sure it goes right. That's I think AI, working on AI and making sure it's a great future. That's the most important thing I think right now, the most pressing item. Then obviously anything to do with genetics. If you can actually solve genetic diseases, if you can prevent dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, with genetic reprogramming, that would be wonderful. So I think this genetics, it might be the sort of second most important item. I think having a high bandwidth interface to the brain, like we're currently bandwidth limited. We have a digital tertiary self in the form of our email capabilities, our computers, phones, applications. We're effectively superhuman, but we're extremely bandwidth constrained in that interface between the cortex and your sort of that tertiary digital form of yourself. And helping solve that bandwidth constraint would be, I think, very important for the future as well.